Okay, so I decided to go ahead and throw all of the Chapter 13 review in on one video. That way I can just get it done and upload it. So I'll start with number 1, work my way through. You can skip through to whatever you don't want to see. So on the grid above, draw a straight line with a gradient of 2. Slope of 2 that passes through the point 3, -1. So if you start at 3, -1, which is right here, and then your slope is 2, so that's going to be up 2 and over 1. So that falls right here. And then you can go down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1, and your line would go right through those points. And then it says find the equation of this line. So if we're finding it in y equals mx plus b format, b would be our y-intercept, which is right here at -7. And m is our slope, which we said right here was 2. So we get y equals 2x minus 7. Slide 2. The vertices of the quadrilateral are -9, 7. So if we plot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, falls right here. So that would be point A, which is falling right here. And then we've got 9, 1. 9, 1 would fall right there. And then we got 8, -5. Fall right there. And then we got 9, -7, -3. So that one would fall right there. And if we connect those lines the best we can without a straight edge, we end up with something that looks similar to this. That's A, this is B, C, and D. Calculate the gradient of line DC. So if we're using D and C and our slope formula, which is the formula for gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we're doing DC, if we pick our y value, we get -3 minus -5 over -7 minus 8. -3 minus -5 is 2. And -7 minus 8 is -15. So you get -2 over 15. So it says state whether DC is parallel to AB and give a reason. If AB, the slope is -1/3 and the slope of this one is -2 over 15, they are not parallel because they do not have the same slopes. And then it says the equation of the line through A and C is 12x plus 17y equals 11. So find the equation of line B and line through B and D, expressing your answer in the form ax plus by equals c. So the first thing we need to do is find the slope of that line through B and D. So I'm going to end up with 1 minus -3 over 9 minus -7. So 1 minus -3 is 4. And 9 minus -7 is 16, and that reduces down to 1/4. So once we have the slope, I'm going to go ahead and erase this top part so that I can add to it up here. Once we've got our slope, now we use our formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we have, I'll use point B, or I'll actually use point D because I can actually see it right now. So I get y plus 3 equals 1/4 times x plus 7. And when I distribute the 1/4, I get y plus 3 equals 1/4 x plus 7/4. Now that we know that the slope is 1/4, I'm going to erase this part. So now I'm going to multiply everything by 4 to get rid of my denominators. So everything gets multiplied by 4. So I get 4y plus 12 equals x plus 7. Now I'm going to subtract the 12 from both sides to get my number on one side, because I want my number c on one side and I want x and y on the other side. So I end up with 4y equals x plus 5. Subtract the x to get the x on the other side. And I end up with negative x plus 4y equals 5. And since I can't have a negative in front of my x, I have to distribute that negative, and I end up with x minus 4y equals negative 5. So my equation in that format is x minus 4y equals... Actually, it should be equals positive 5, because this should have been a negative 5 from the beginning. So when I distribute the negative, it becomes plus 5. So x minus 4y equals 5. And then it says to calculate their intersecting points. So you can do one of two things. You can put this back into y equals and plug them both into your calculator and go to calculate the intersection. And if you need help knowing how to do this, ask me at the very beginning of class and I'll show you. Or you can use the polynomial simultaneous equation solver app that we used last year and plug it into the calculator. And again, if you don't know how to do one of those two things to find the intersection for this system of equations, where it's one of the equations is 12x plus 7y equals 11 and the other one is x minus 4y equals 5, then see me tomorrow. Problem 3 asks you to calculate the gradient or the slope of line AB. So again, our formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we're using A and B, then I'm going to do 4 minus 2 over 2 minus negative 3. So 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 minus negative 3 is 5, so the slope is 2 over 5. Find the coordinates of the midpoint. Our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma y1 plus y2 over 2. So if we're finding the midpoint of AC, then we get 2 plus negative 6 over 2, comma 4 plus 7 over 2. 2 plus negative 6 is negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. And 4 plus 7 is 11 divided by 2 is 11 halves. So you get negative 2, comma 11 halves. Calculate the length of line AC. Our distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. That should be a minus. So if we're doing A and C, what I'm going to plug into my calculator is 2 minus negative 6 squared plus 4 minus 7 squared. And I plug that straight into my calculator and I get 8.54. Then it says again to find the equation of the line BM, giving your answer in AX plus BY plus D equals 0. We've already done one of these in the last problem, but I'll work through this one as well. So we've got to find the slope first off from B to M. Well, this is our M point, and here's B. So to find the slope, we've got 2 minus 11 halves over negative 3 minus a negative 2. So that becomes plus a positive, so we get -1 on the bottom, which means it's just going to change the sign. And then 2 minus 11 halves, I'm going to change the 2 to 4 halves, so I end up with a common denominator. So 4 halves minus 11 halves is -7 halves. And -7 halves over 1 is -7 halves, but since it's a negative, those both become positive, and I end up with positive 7 halves for the slope. And then I simply take one of my points, and I'll use B so I don't have to deal with the 11 halves again. And I get y minus 2 equals 7 halves times x plus 3. Y minus 2 equals 7 halves x plus 21 over 2. Multiply everything through by 2 to get rid of my fraction. And I end up with 2y minus 4 equals 7x plus 21. I'm going to have to add 4 to both sides. Well, when I add 4 over here, I get 25. And then I have to subtract the 7x from both sides. So I get -7x plus 2y equals 25. And then again, I can't have the negative sign here, so I've got to multiply everything through by a negative to switch the sign. So I get 7x minus 2y equals -25. And then it says, state whether AB is perpendicular to BC. Well, the slope for AB was 2/5, and the slope for BC, we have not... Oh yeah, we did calculate right here is 7 halves, and those are not opposite reciprocals, so it is not perpendicular. Okay, so midpoint of P and Q, again, our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. So if we take the coordinates of P and Q, we get 0 plus 5 divided by 2, comma, -4 plus 2 divided by 2. So 0 plus 5 divided by 2 is 5 halves. And -4 plus 2 divided by 2 is -2 divided by 2, which is -1. So the midpoint is 5 halves, comma, -1. If we find the gradient of the line drawn through P and Q, that's our slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So P and Q, if we plug it into our formula, we get -4 minus 2 over 0 minus 5. -4 minus 2 is -6. 0 minus 5 is -5, so that becomes a positive 6 over 5. So the gradient of a line drawn through M perpendicular to PQ, so if PQ has a slope of 6 over 5, then the perpendicular is an opposite reciprocal, so that would be -5 over 6. And then it says the perpendicular line drawn through M meets the y-axis at R at 0, K. Find K. So first off, we have to find our equation of the line drawn through M that's perpendicular. So our slope is -5 over 6, and our point M is 5 halves, comma, -1. So we get y plus 1 equals -5/6 x minus 5 halves. So if we distribute, we get y plus 1 equals -5/6 x plus 25 over 12. And then we want to subtract 1 from both sides, and to make it into a common denominator of 12ths, I'm going to subtract 12 twelfths. So I get y equals -5/6 x. 25 minus 12 is 13 twelfths. Alright, so then it says the midpoint of the line joining S6 to negative 6t has coordinates 4, 3. So calculate the values of S and T. Well, S is going to be, our midpoint formula is x1 plus x2 over 2. So x1 would be S plus x2 is negative 6 divided by 2. And we know that equals our x coordinate of our midpoint, which is 4. So if I cross multiply, I get S minus 6 equals 8, add 6 to both sides, and I get S equals 14. I'm going to do the same thing with my y coordinate. I'm going to take the 6 and the t. Those added together will give me 3. So I get 6 plus t over 2 equals 3. Again, I cross multiply, and I get 6 plus t equals 6, so t equals 0. So you end up with the point 14, 6 and negative 6, 0. I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this work so I can do part B, which is find the equation of the straight line perpendicular to AB passing through the point M. So we have our M, which is 14, 6 and negative 6, 0. And we want it perpendicular to AB. Well, we need to know the slope of AB first to know what's perpendicular. So to find the slope of AB, we're going to do 6 minus 0 over 14 minus negative 6. So we get 6 over 20, which is 3 over 10. So our slope is 3 over 10. So we get y minus 0 equals 3 over 10 x plus 6. So we get y equals 3 over 10 x. And then we get, actually no we don't. I forgot, we're supposed to be doing perpendicular. So this is not 3 over 10. We have to find the perpendicular slope. So that is going to be negative 10 over 3. So our slope here is actually negative 10 over 3x. And then when we distribute this to the 6, we end up with minus 20. And that is our answer. Alright, last problem. Write down the gradient of the line y equals 6x plus 2. The gradient is with the number with the x, so that's 6. Find the gradient of the line which is perpendicular to that line. So 6 over 1, to find the perpendicular, we take the reciprocal and the opposite, so we get negative 1 over 6. So that slope is negative 1 over 6. And then we're going to find the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 6x minus 2, which means it has this slope and it passes through this point. So we've got y minus 4 equals negative 1 over 6 times x plus 1. So y minus 4 equals negative 1 over 6x minus 1 over 6. We're going to add 4 to both sides, and if we convert to a common denominator of 6, then that ends up with us adding 24 over 6. So we end up with y equals negative 1/6 x plus 23 over 6. Now we have two lines. We have this one and we have this one, and we want to know where they intersect. So plug them into y equals on your calculator. Go to calculate intersection, and it'll calculate the intersection for you, and you get negative 0.946, 3.68.